The primary thing for a CPaaS provider is to interface to a variety of applications. And those applications have different responsibilities, different roles, and different requirements. So the API gives you the ability to interface to the telecommunication network from those applications in order to achieve the contact that you wish over the various telecommunication networks, whether it's text, chat, email, voice. All of those things are part of what the API needs to provide to the applications. How do our customers use the APIs to interact with Phononym? It depends on the nature of their network. So if the network is totally hosted by Amazon, they might interface to us across the Amazon network into the SoftLayer network. However, most of the times the network elements are co-located within the same facility in order to kind of remove the wide area network as a risk. But in general, it's just going to be over a typical IP connection, and the API will respond immediately for whatever call setup or whatever traffic the application is trying to create. Okay, so everybody's being affected by robocalling. It's an incredibly big problem for the entire industry. And at Phononym, what we're trying to do is, in order to allow robocalling to be flagged and stopped at the carrier level, we have multiple connections into top-tier carriers that will allow them to block the calls, or at least from our perspective, attest the calls so that they can understand who's calling and why. Our customers are very diligent about abiding by the laws, and more importantly, letting the customer know why they are calling. So the ability for STIR/SHAKEN to say, here is the legitimate company behind this call, and hopefully in the future, this is why we are calling. All of that information can be provided to the person answering the phone before they answer the phone. They'll know the caller, they'll know why they're calling, and can decide if they want to answer the phone or not. STIR/SHAKEN is important because it allows the carrier to see through the entire chain of the telecommunication network who exactly is calling, and that number belongs to that company. So it's not just a 10-digit number showing up on your phone anymore. It's actually the name of the company and potentially why they're calling. And that information has been publicly certified by the carriers, and so it's trustworthy, and the person answering the phone can then decide, based on that certified information, how they want to handle that call. Okay, so the key factors in choosing a telecommunication provider from our perspective, from a CPaaS provider, is number one, the quality of the connection. So you have to have the ability to ensure that when that call is established, that the quality for delay, for bandwidth, for all the audible aspects of that call are sufficient for what the people expect on a phone call or a video call. So for us, we need to have the proper bandwidth, we need to have the proper capacity in terms of channels and delay, minimize the delay. So all of those things go into how we look at a particular telecommunication provider before we add them to our network. Of course, cost comes into that as well. We generally pass the costs on to the customer, so it's important to the customer that we minimize the cost of the transactions. How using a CPaaS provider helps the customer is that they no longer have to deal with all the intricacies of the network, underlying network within the telecom space. So whether it's a text or a video call or SMS, it's all really just an API function call to them. they can focus on the application and what's really important to their success, rather than having to worry about session border controllers, routers, and most importantly, interfaces to telecommunication providers that can sometimes be a little bit on the sketchy side, depending on the type of carrier you're interfacing to. So other things that the CPaaS provider take care of for our customers is things like CDRs, reconciliation of the bills, so that they no longer have to worry about, oh, I have to have redundant carriers, and I'm going to get redundant CDRs, and I'm going to sift through a bunch of information that is not really relevant to my customers. What we do is we're able to give them a single sheet of information that tells them all of their costs, all of their efficiencies on the network, and they don't have to worry about trying to reconcile the bills with 3 or 4 different carriers. So yeah, one of the key aspects of our CPaaS services is to make it a secure and private conversation between the customer and the person that's answering the phone or taking the video call. So part of that is how we place the equipment within the colos, and how we protect that from the outside dangerous internet. But the key thing is that the information that we have is stored in encrypted fashion on secure servers, and the only thing that we give to the customers are the CDRs that help them identify their essential billing services for the month. The things like recordings, the video recordings or the audio recordings or the text messages, those are all available to the customer if they have the need to examine them later. But even that has to be done under a very secure process. Well, how Phonative helps our customers is basically making the API available to them in a very easy to use fashion. So the design of the API is critical. Also making it something that is readily reachable and highly available is probably the main thing. Having that interface always up and the network always functioning is the main thing that they no longer have to worry about. They can focus on their applications, they can focus on their customers, and they can focus on their employees getting the maximum benefit without having to really worry about the underlying data or telecommunications network. How is Stir Shaken being implemented within the CPaaS world? That's a moving target today. So in today's world with Stir Shaken, it has to be attested to the first customer that the carrier has. So in that case, Phonative is the customer to, say, AT&T. And so they can only attest that Phonative can use that number that we're using to place the call. In the future, and this is what Phonative is working very hard to implement with the Attis group, we will be able to pass that attestment through to our customers so that the individual company placing the call through the CPaaS servers can actually be attested rather than just the CPaaS service itself. It's called a delegated certificate, and I'd say it's 90% through the certification process, but that will really remap the Stir Shaken environment to go much further into the actual customer attestation. Yeah, I think so. Are we ever going to stop robocalling? I would be very disappointed if in 5 years we still have a lot of robocalling going on. There's technical solutions, and I think in the early days we sort of didn't really anticipate this. It's kind of like spam or junk email. And sure, yeah, you still get junk emails, but the number of junk emails I get is way down. I think you'll see a similar trend in robocalling. The percentage of robocalls in 5 years should be like 1 or 2% of what people see today. What are some of the things that make Phonative special, I think, and how they are really different than other CPaaS providers? I think it's mostly the quality of the people and the nature of how they've approached their network from the very beginning to be secure and to be absolutely the best possible operating network they could have. So they made a very good choice with their SBC, they made a very good choice with their co-location partner, and I think their design of their software, their in-house software and our API has been really well done. And that, I think, gives them a much better focus in the CPaaS market than other companies. They've built it really from the ground up, being the best possible service they could provide.